how to speak to people. And especially when our students have visual impairments, they might not always see us speaking, and that you probably have heard this word before, but this incidental learning. Incidental learning is what you learn by observing, by watching others do things. And if you have that visual impairment or blindness, you're not being able to visually see, hey, my mom and dad are having a conversation, or we're talking to a friend and we're looking at each other while we're speaking to each other. We're making eye contact. We're not facing the other direction. That's a learned skill. And so if the child can't see, that has to be directly taught to them because they're not observing and seeing that come in. It could also include some other communication skills that include Braille. It can also, which can also be its own separate thing, but it can come under this compensatory skill. And other examples include that tactile symbols, if you have more of a nonverbal child, or just you're communicating and working on building those literacy skills, having those tactile pieces to help introduce them to different pieces and words, as well as sign language. And this includes, it's what your child needs to be able to successfully access material. The next one is orientation and mobility. Now we've had several sessions I know here on orientation and mobility already, but orientation and mobility works on skills to orient a child to their surroundings, to independently travel and move safely in their environment. Okay? This can include using a white cane, but it doesn't have to. It can also be using a sighted guide, independently get around using tools such as binoculars. If you get turned around in a space, how do you reorient yourself? How do you find where you need to go? Having a guide dog, or asking or not asking somebody for help. Not only do our children need to learn how to ask for help, they also have to be able to turn it down. I will tell you a lot of times, especially if they have a white cane or somebody sees them struggling, people might come up and just randomly start dragging you. Oh, let me help you. And they start pushing you. Well, I don't want to be touched. I can do this. So they also have to be able to say, I'm good, thank you, but I'm good. But to do that kind of in a polite way, so that not to make anybody feel too uncomfortable because, yes, you're trying to be nice. But also to correctly tell people how they want help. If they do need help, can I take your arm for sighted guide? Or could you just give me a simple direction? Read that sign for me. So just asking. Orientation mobility isn't just using that white cane. It involves so much more than that. It can also include navigating grocery stores, navigating bus systems, learning how to call for an Uber or a Lyft, and also asking the right questions when that Uber or that Lyft gets there, because that can be nerve-wracking. We hear all of these crazy stories with these car services, and we can teach our children how to correctly ask that and confirm that this is my Uber driver, this is the car, because we might have a whole line of cars and they're all black. Well, they're not going to be able to differentiate it. Now, I will say you'll get nice Uber drivers and not so nice Uber drivers. Just like with everything. We had one experience where I was working with a student and we were using an Uber and we walked up and we were confirming our driver. Now, instead of saying our name and saying, I'm Kayla, because if you tell them your name, they're like, oh yeah, you're my ride, right? We asked them their name to confirm on our list their driver or confirm the license plate. And he was very rude and was like, I'm not telling you my name, that's not what I need to do. And I was like, well, I'm teaching somebody who's visually impaired how to safely get a ride. He got a 1 star. But because he was very mean and fought with me on it. But these are the things that our children are going to encounter regardless. So these are skills that orientation mobility can help them work through and give them the strategies that they need to be successful and feel safe and confident to get around their environment independently. Now, independent is a big word. It has a lot of different meanings and will mean different things to everybody, but in this sense, they can do it all on their own. Any questions so far? Social interaction skills. Children with visual impairments need conscious and explicit instruction in order to participate actively and appropriately in social situations. Again, some of this incidental learning that our children who are typically sighted children, they learn a lot of this on their own. Sometimes by just observation. Now also, sometimes they do not. Preschoolers need help with learning how to share too. Everybody does. But they need explicit help doing that. They might not know that their friend is in the room in that back corner playing, or that their friend is already at school on the playground. So learning different tips and tricks on how to find your friend on the playground, how to make that buddy and kind of teach them, hey, if you're gonna run off and play, could you maybe come find me? Or have a meeting spot. Also just in the classroom. Sometimes children with visual impairments like to play alone. Now, is there anything wrong with playing alone? Absolutely not. Having that alone time, learning how to entertain yourself is just as important. But so is that social interaction. So sometimes they need that extra little push to be able to go and ask somebody if they can play with them. Can I join you? Can I play that? Or would you like to join me? And asking those questions. This all kind of might sound very basic and very simple, but it's things that we don't always think about that they might need that extra push in, that extra support and help. For example, I also work with students who are totally blind. And we had a little girl who, she only played by herself. She never played with anybody else. And one day in my classroom, we always have little brain breaks and they get to play. And she was sitting there playing and another little girl went up to her and they actually started playing together. I canceled my entire math lesson. I canceled everything. I was like, this is more important because these two children, they are interacting. They are playing a game together. And it wasn't forced. It wasn't completely of the teachers and us going up to them and telling them to play together. They had finally kind of figured it out and said, let's play together. Let's play this game. And it was amazing. And it's such a great feeling to be like, I looked at my PowerPoint, I was like, we're not doing math today. They're gonna get extra playtime. They're probably gonna love me for this. But they need this because as important as math is, reading, and all those core subjects, these pieces are just as important because these are the pieces too that they're going to be using in daily life and interacting with other people. So again, taking turns, the opportunities to hang out with somebody. I mean, especially if your student's really, really shy, you're not going to want to go up and say, hey, you want to hang out or have a play date, or go up to your parent and ask for that support too. Any questions? Independent living skills is also known, and it has different acronyms or different abbreviations, but one of them is ILS, Independent Living Skills, and they've kind of been changing and playing with some of the wording for these, but it all encompasses as teaching the skills to organize your life in a specific way so that you can live independently. It also includes those pieces of explicit hygiene, brushing our teeth, washing our face, how to correctly put the toothpaste on the toothbrush, not squeezing it so hard so that it's all over the toothbrush and all over the sink. Because there are tips and tricks that we can see, because if you have a white toothbrush and white toothpaste, that's not high contrast. That's going to be really hard for a person with visual impairments to see. So teaching them how to use your finger, how to use different skills of getting that toothpaste on your toothbrush, or finding a toothpaste that's a different color. Now, again, if we have sensory needs, that might not be an option. They might want that one specific toothpaste. It needs to be that watermelon flavor that is white. So we need to teach you how to adapt in putting that on, making sure that they know it's important to brush our teeth. I mean, my kids don't always see me brush my teeth, so even that incidental learning of brushing our teeth doesn't always come unless we help them, and we have to help them sometimes a little bit more so that they can do it on their own. Washing our face. We don't always know if there's something on our face, but we know after we eat, maybe after we brush our teeth or something, we should wipe our face down, right? Make sure we don't have anything on there. If you are visually impaired or blind, you don't see that. You don't see other people with things on their face after they eat. They might not always feel it. So again, teaching them those skills of doing it. Every morning, we have a routine in my classroom where my kids come in, they put their things away. We brush our teeth in the morning. we practice that skill. And then they wash their face. Just to help give them, one, the habit of doing it on their own, that skill, that practice, but then there's that sense of a routine. That after I do this, I really should wipe my face or check to make sure that I don't have anything else on my face. Independent living skills also includes food preparation, cooking. That's huge, and there's a lot of safety things that come in with that. You know, oh my gosh, I don't want my child to touch the oven or get too close, right? Or especially as new parents, right? We have a little child and there's the oven or the stove and we talk about keeping them safe. Well, we have to teach them that it's hot, right? Just like we teach any child. But how do we find out if it's hot safely without burning ourselves? How do we turn it on? How do we know what temperature the oven needs to be set at if I can't see those numbers very well? So this independent living skills includes all of that, teaching our students how to make those adaptations to their life, to their equipment, so that they can be successful in preparing their food, so that we don't have to do it for them forever. Money management. That's another big one. I feel like independent living skills is just such a big, broad topic, but money management, right? And I feel like sometimes that's something every child needs, not just students with visual impairments, but how do you tell if it's a $1 bill versus a $5 bill? If you have trouble seeing the numbers. They're all green and white, right? They all look the same. So using some of their tools or their technology to know it. There's also specific ways that bills can be folded into your wallet so that they have that routine and that technique that when I get a $1 bill, that one can go straight in. If I have a 5, I'm gonna fold it in half. So it's got the long way, like a hot dog. If I have a 10, it's gonna go the other way, like a hamburger. If I have a 20, it's gonna be folded a different way. So then, when I'm at the store and I wanna pay for something in cash, I don't have to get my magnifier out, or my phone and get my magnifier out, or my binocular. I can simply feel in my wallet and pull out the correct bill. And I don't have to trust that if I get the wrong one too, right, that the cashier is gonna be responsible and nice and say, oh, you gave me too much, and give the correct change. So there's lots of little tips and tricks that can be taught to help with that money management. Also, paying bills. You know, kids don't know why this is again, another thing that I feel like independent living skills is something that it should just be a class. I know we used to have like home ec and different things like that. Every student, I think, needs independent living skills, not just in the VI world. Because again, our kids, you know, the lights come on at home, food is in the fridge. Parents pay the bills. Kids don't, but they have to learn how to do that. They have to learn how to make appointments. And it's going to be a little bit of an extra step for our children because they have to make sure that it's accessible. But they're there, and the ability of it is there, and they have access to it. It's just teaching them those tricks and tips of how to make it accessible to them. Household chores. You know, vacuuming is going to be a little bit different. You know, how do they make sure they get it all if they can't see some of those spots? You know, there's specific methods that you can use, specific routines, ways that you can go through your home and do it correctly. Not correctly, but to make sure you're getting all the specific areas. You know, laundry. How do I know I'm hitting the right buttons or doing laundry correctly? Folding. There's tips and tricks to learning how to fold your clothes. You can also mark your clothes. Now again, it's not necessarily going to be as big of an issue for some of our students who still have vision. You know, I do work with both. I work with completely blind students as well as just low vision. And some of these tricks that we use for our students who are completely blind are very beneficial and can make lives a little easier for the visually impaired. There's special ways that you can mark your clothes so that you know what you're getting so you can match your clothes a little bit easier. So there's just so many little things that can be done with independent living skills that can make lives just a little bit easier for the parents and for the children. Any questions? Okay. Rec and leisure. Again, we might not think that this is a big one or a hard one, or one that we might not need to spend a lot of time on. But there's skills to ensure that children enjoy stuff, physical and just regular leisurely activities. We might not think of this very much as like, this is something I need to push on my child, because a lot of the time, our children find things that they enjoy doing, right? Some of us are into sports, some of us are into science, some of us are into reading. There's so many things out there. But making sure that it's accessible is another game, all entirely. So it includes, making choices, helping them to figure out making choices, how to spend their time, how they can learn about new activities. Sometimes we get stuck in our little bubble of something that we really like and we're scared to branch out. And that can be even scarier with a visual impairment because, well, I can't see that in person. I don't know who that is. I don't, and they're just more skeptical. But making sure that they have the opportunities, if they are interested in trying something, to try to help them make that happen and give them the support that is needed. Also, staying physically fit and active is also important. Not just for health, but it can be something that they really enjoy. And sometimes we kind of rule out activities that are physical because, well, I can't see to do that. How am I going to do that? If I can't see it from far away, or I don't think I'm not going to see that branch, if I'm running, how am I going to use the weight machines? It's going to look weird if I have to bring this with me all the time. I'm going to have to, where am I going to put it if I'm, using the workout equipment? And again, it's all about learning those tips and tricks. And I feel like I keep repeating myself with those tips and tricks, but that's what this is, and these are what they're learning. Because it's just, instead of those core subjects, the expanded core is all of these extra pieces that we use daily and that we need. Also, finding ways for us to relax and get relief from stress. Helping them find something that they enjoy doing. Questions? Career education. This is another big one. And I don't want you to think if you have little ones that this doesn't and can't start early, because it can. A lot of times when we think of career education, because career education, it teaches and provides children with visual impairments opportunities to explore career options and to learn about the working world, right? We all want our kids to be successful. We all want them to be happy. We want them to have a career. And that doesn't have to start in high school. I think we all kind of save it for high school because we're like, oh my gosh, there's so many other things that we have to focus on and they have to learn. And it can be incorporated really, really easy. But explicit instruction allows students to get this hands-on experience by, especially as they get older, visiting places, having discussions with people who perform those careers to see, hey, is this something really that I want to do? Can I make it happen for myself? How am I going to make it happen for myself? And to see people successful, what specific skills are needed for this job, for me to be successful in this career, and how do I go about getting those skills? It's not necessarily saying, oh, I don't have that skill, I can't do that. It's, okay, what do I need to do to get there? And it doesn't have to start when they turn 18. It even starts, sometimes you'll see in elementary school, classroom jobs. It's kind of the start of it. It's having that responsibility, finding something that they like to do. And I don't know if you've ever been in a classroom, but there's usually always that one or two jobs that every child wants to do. Everyone. It's like the favorite job in the classroom. And there's a lot of different ways. Now that does fall more on the teacher, and there's different ways it can be done in your classroom. Personally, for me, I teach kindergarten and first grade, and I started early. I created a job application for my jobs, and I help my students fill out that job application. We fill out that job application, and then they have to sit down and answer questions. They have an interview with me. And they have to answer questions about that job. And how, and about, why they want that job. And they have to put 2 jobs on. They have to put a first and a second choice on their application so that because everybody's going to get a job. It's just, they may not get the one they want that round. And we have that conversation in the classroom about being able to handle that emotion, because again, that's a big emotion too. Being let down or not getting what you want, you're gonna get a lot of no's in your life, most likely. I know I have, when you're looking for jobs and interviews. And so that's a whole nother emotion that goes with this and feeling that is learned. You have to learn how to handle that. And so we talk about it, and they have that interview. And then they have to perform the job. And I had one student who goes, well, I don't want to do my job today. And I said, well, you're not going to get paid. And he looked at me like, what? He was shocked, because I tie money management into it too, so they do get paid for their jobs. And then they can purchase things with their money. And he was very taken aback when I said, well, if you don't do the work, you don't earn the money. And he just kind of looked at me and was like, no, wait, what? He went and did his job because he wanted his money. But that connection of, well, money just appears for me, right? If I ask for something, mom and dad say yes, here's $5, yeah, you can go get that, that's okay with me. How did that get earned? Whole other concept. So it can start younger. And I know some of us, we may do it with allowances and chores at home and stuff, so it all kind of builds, but it can also be built into the classroom, and it can be built into the school setting as well. Now, I'm not saying go home and ask every teacher to do, necessarily what I do in my classroom, because I have a very different classroom setting as well. But those are just some ideas and things that have worked, and that helps. And it's important to know that these things can and do need to do. They also need to know about the different jobs that are out there. How do you find some of these jobs? Even today, I look around and I hear about somebody telling me what they do for a living, and I'm like, how the heck did you get into that? That's amazing. I didn't even know that type of job existed. There's so many careers out there and jobs out there, and it doesn't have to be, it can be a trade school. I'm not gonna say push college. That might not be for your kid. There's so many great opportunities out there in many realms, but helping them find them and finding their niche, finding what they like. And again, it doesn't have to just start in high school. Assistive technology is another huge area of the ECC, and I know this is a big one that you guys, if you saw any of the vendors out there yesterday, you saw a lot of the assistive technology. What was out there is not the only items that are out there. There's more and more, and assistive technology can be very advanced. It can also be very minimal, like a monocular or binoculars. Those are considered assistive technology. But it's a powerful tool that can help level the playing field for our children in the career world, in the academic world, because it makes things accessible to them and helps them overcome those barriers and those obstacles. And it can help foster that independence for them, that they can do things by themselves, and it can boost their employment. Now, assistive technology, it includes, like I said, screen readers, which is reading it to you, magnifiers, monoculars, larger screens, CCTVs, learning the different settings on the devices is also assistive technology. If you have iPads or tablets, they have assistive pieces on them. They have accessibility features built into them, and they're constantly getting better and better. But learning how to use those tools is another piece that's huge. I didn't know how to do that. The other day we were talking, my husband's phone got blown up. He was like, why are my text messages so big? And he started Googling, he went into his settings and tried to figure out all these pieces, and he couldn't figure it out. He's like, why are my words still so big? And then he finally read something, he goes, all I had to do was pinch. Until you know how to use it effectively and efficiently, it's a lot harder. So once a device is decided on, it doesn't end there. Oh, my kid has this, and if the TV guy says, oh, we're good, or the teacher says, we're good, you got this device, it's gonna be awesome, it's gonna help you, everything's accessible. Until you know how to use that device efficiently and effectively, it's useless. It's just gonna sit there, because it's gonna take them twice as long. And will it take them a little bit longer at first? Absolutely, because it's just another piece that they have to learn, right? But they learn really, really fast, especially with technology. Most of our kids can probably do more tech than we can unless you're in the tech world. So knowing those pieces. Also, if in jobs, technology's everywhere and they're gonna need to know it. And if they have even more knowledge in technology, it's huge. Now, if your child is using screen readers, and especially if you are in a school that is an Apple school, because Apple is thought and known to be a little bit ahead of the curve with some of their accessibility built-in features. It's great. VoiceOver is fantastic. On an iPad, there's specific gestures that you can learn to use your iPad without any vision at all. Just know that if a screen reader is something that your child needs and is benefiting from, you might also, and I don't think it's going to apply to many of our kids, but don't rule out PCs either, because most businesses are not using Apple products. They're using PC-based. So while it's important that if your child has an iPhone and they love it, that's fantastic and that's great. they also need to also be able to maneuver through a PC and know some of those features. And as they learn themselves what they need, and they can start to advocate for themselves, they need to be able to go in once they have a job and say, I need a larger screen, I need this, and I need this to be successful at this job. I can do it, I need this. And most employers will do that. Legally speaking, they need to. They cannot discriminate. But they need to know what they need, and they need to know how to use it. Now businesses, if they have specific platforms or programs, can educate them and teach them, because they're gonna have to do that to anybody, right? Coming on into a new position, they're gonna have trainings, but they need to know what they need and how to use it. So I also like exposing children to both, not just Apple products, but PC products as well. Now it's not saying, you know, one's necessarily better, and it's not saying if you have an iPad, you go get another product. That's not what I'm saying. Just simply make sure that they do have some exposure, because it is very important, and I'm finding that where I work currently.